Hi, I'm Allison Dunn, and I welcome you to Deliberate Leaders. Today, our interview is with Stephen Shedletzky, and I hope I said that correctly. He is the head of brand experience at Simon Sinek, Inc. And you probably recognize the name Simon Sinek. He's famous for Start With Why and Find Your Why books, along with Leaders Eat Last and The Infinite Game. And I'm sure there are probably dozens more that I haven't yet listed. In his role at Simon Sinek, Inc., Stephen teaches and engages with audience and leaders and organizations to help share and facilitate Simon's message from his books. And we know that Simon's very busy, so we are super pleased to have Stephen here with us today. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. So delighted to join you.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to just dive right into it with our time here. I will openly admit that I have not yet read The Infinite Game. And so, but I love the concept of that's driven around an infinite mindset. So can you just kind of tell me the difference between the mindsets that you discuss in the book or that are taught?
Yeah, so it's built upon some theory by a guy named James Carse from the mid-'80s. He wrote a book called Finite and Infinite Games. And so if you have two or more players, you have a game, and it turns out there are at least two types of games. There are finite games and there are infinite games. So finite games have known players, agreed upon fixed rules, and a clear endpoint. Baseball, right? There's a clear beginning, middle, and end. The players are known and the rules are agreed upon, except for maybe the strike zone. Infinite games have known and unknown players. Players come and go. The rules can change. There's no standard metrics of success. It's in the eye of the beholder, and there is no end. Players come and go. The game keeps going. There are no winners of infinite games. There's only ahead and behind. And so Simon wrote this book that really is about know what game you're in, and then play with the appropriate mindset. A finite mindset is one designed to win. An infinite mindset is one designed to exist and keep going. And so we should look at what game are we playing in? Are we playing in an infinite game or are we playing in a finite game? Baseball is a finite game. It wouldn't be smart to play baseball with an infinite mindset. We don't need to win. We just need to keep going. No, like you got to win more games than you lose. Otherwise, you're not going to exist, you know? Infinite games are games like life, right? Though our lives are finite, life has existed before us and life will exist after us. Politics, education, all of our relationships, right? There's no winning marriage. You can be number two, you can't be number one. And business is an infinite game, but too many players play the infinite game of business with a finite mindset. Just listen to how we speak about it. Beat the competition, be number one, win the game. Well, how do you win a game that has no finish line?
Very true. So let's apply it specifically to how you lead with an infinite mindset, and like how does that show up in the workplace and in our businesses today?
Sure. So to lead with an infinite mindset, it's a practice. It's like the practice of being healthy. Can you hear me loud and clear still, or am I kind of coming in and out? You're good? Awesome.
You sound great to me.
Okay, great. It's a practice. So there are a few things that you have to do, and it's all of them. So it's the same as if I were to say, I want to have a health practice. I want to have health and well-being. Well, what are the things I need to do? I need to eat well. I need to exercise. I need to sleep. I need to focus on my relationships, right? Those are all these things that I need to do. Where do I start? Just start, do all of them, right? And the funny thing about when you become healthy is you can't stop doing those things. You have to keep going. And it's the same with adopting an infinite mindset and leading with an infinite mindset in the infinite game. There are 5 things that we have to do, 5 practices. Advance a just cause, build trusting teams, study our worthy rivals, prepare for existential flexibility, which sounds more complicated than it is, and
That sounds very
demonstrate,
savvy.
yeah, and demonstrate the courage to lead. So advance a just cause to lead in the infinite game. You must, as a leader or an organization, you must have a cause bigger than your own ego, that is a specific vision of the future that you and the people around you who are part of this, whether they're employees or customers or vendors, you're willing to sacrifice to advance that cause. That's a just cause. We need to build trusting teams. We need to study our worthy rivals. It's not about beating the competition. It's about studying who do we admire or who frustrates the heck out of us, because they get all the accolades, but we think we're better, right? Well, they probably make you insecure because there's something that they do that is better than you. And it would behoove you to study them so you can improve. Existential flexibility is about finding a better business model that allows you to advance your just cause. You know, like, why is it Spotify that came out and it wasn't from a music company? You know, or the interesting example I heard is a laundry detergent company like Tide should be focused on making a fabric, a shirt that requires no laundering. It would totally make their laundry detergent sales cannibalize and obsolete. But if they're really committed to a cause, wouldn't they want to do that? So it's about radically shifting your mindset to advance a cause rather than advancing a cash cow. And then the last is demonstrating the courage to lead, because all of these things are really hard to do. Putting your people first, putting a cause ahead of short-term profits. Are you kidding me? All these things are very hard to do, and it requires courage. And the funny thing about courage, when we do what's right for the tribe and not what's right for our interests, we build trust.
I love the concept of just cause, and I'm just curious, especially for my listeners, how is just cause tied into and or different than a vision statement that a company may have? And I hope you can answer that in a way that, like, I hope that makes sense. My question.
Yeah. Well, so just cause is the same as vision, but as
Okay.
is Simon's genius, the issue with the current terms we have out there is we lack a standard definition. So, you know, we use the words like purpose, mission, vision, raison d'etre, North Star. We have so many words that essentially mean the same thing. And so, but the issue is we debate the meanings of the word, and then we make no progress together. So, as part of Simon's genius, you know, when he wrote Start With Why, he went to boardrooms and met with so many different organizations and leaders from so many different organizations. And he would ask them all the same thing. What's the most important part of your operation? Whether it was a nonprofit leader, for-profit leader, government, military. And they would all say something like brand or raison d'etre or purpose or vision or mission. It's our mission. And he'd go one or two levels deeper and say, well, what is that? And they would all eventually say, well, it's why we do what we do. And he went, great. Can we just call it the why? So our why is our purpose. Our purpose comes from our past. It's an origin story. It's who we are. Our just cause is our why projected into the future. It's vision. But the reason we don't call it vision is because the term is bastardized.
Yeah. Can you give me, like, maybe one of your favorite just causes for a company that is, you know, I think a lot of people would associate just cause with nonprofit type of work. So can you give me an example of just one of your favorite companies that is a for-profit company that has just a really powerful just cause that you relate with?
I think Patagonia is an amazing organization, right?
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
they are for profit. Make no mistake of it. And I believe they have wings of the organization that are our foundation as well. But they're a for-profit clothing company, and they do things that are counter to their short-term success. Like they have a program called Worn Wear, which is you send back clothes that you no longer are using, and then they will clean them and refurbish them and resell them. I've bought Worn Wear stuff, right? And it's good as new. But they're a fantastic organization that stands for something. It's funny, what organization defines itself by what it isn't, right? Nobody wakes up this morning and says, I can't wait to not make profit. No, you're a for impact organization. You are a for impact organization, and your metrics are just a little bit different, right? So every great for-profit organization exists for something bigger than profit. So Sweet Green is an organization that we highlight in the book. Victorinox, which is the company that makes Swiss Army knives, is an amazingly inspiring organization out of Switzerland. And yeah, like all the companies we admire, Patagonia and Harley Davidson and Apple, they all stand to advance something bigger than themselves, and it gives them an ethical and moral compass to do things greater than simply following law, right? So yeah, those are a few.
If a leader doesn't yet have a just cause, how can they develop a just cause that really engages not only their desire to do well, but also those of their team members, people they lead?
Yeah, so every one of us has a why, and the way we find our why is by going to the past, right? It's if it's an individual, and if that individual happens to be a leader of an organization, their individual why impacts their organization and what it means to be a part of it and what their leadership is like. And if it's an organization, you can ask people simply, why are they proud to be a part of this place? Tell me the times when you felt proud to be here. And our just cause is speaking about, if our why were to be realized, what would the world look like? And the beautiful thing about a just cause is we'll never actually accomplish it. It's infinite, right? We don't wake up one Tuesday morning and go, just cause, nailed it, like no more, right? No, there's always more. And this is why and just cause is linked to legacy. And so not everyone, like 2% of the population are visionaries. And so if you aren't a crazy, wacky, idealist, Richard Branson, Malala, Steve Jobsian, visionary, pressure's off. You don't need to be the visionary. You just need to identify with a vision, right? And you need to look to who are those visionaries who believed in something bigger than themselves that you are inspired by. And you can look to their vision for some answers as well. So, when you look at the C-suite, it's funny because every C-suite role, exactly what they do because it's in the title: CMO, CTO, CFO. Like, I'm not hiring a CFO if they don't know how to read a balance sheet, COO, like it's in the title. But what does a CEO do? What does it mean to be an executive? Like, I don't know, do you? And so the term that we put forth in the Infinite Game is CVO, Chief Vision Officer. It's your responsibility to keep things positive, to point to the future, to say, this is where we're going, this is what success looks like, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, and then ensure that everything is designed to help us go toward that, right? Especially if it's hard, and especially if it means we have to make short-term sacrifice in order to make progress in the mid to long term.
I don't know that I've ever actually seen the title used of CVO, but I think that that's actually like so brilliant, right? Because I play a CEO by day, but I think my role is a CVO. So that's cool. I like.
Absolutely. Cool. I'm glad it resonates.
How many entrepreneurs do you think start with why, like on purpose, like really driving know what it is, as opposed to setting, I just want to make money or a financial goal?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the actual number. I haven't done the study nor seen it, but it's not the majority.
Right.
And it's our human instinct. Like if you even look at the way we write an email, we start with, we just go through our rational process, and at the very end we write why we're asking or our ask, which is funny. Which, by the way, a funny little trick is write your email, then read your last sentence and put it at the top. Because now you've given, you open up the email, and let's face it, we all get too many, but you're starting the email with the very reason that you're reaching out. And so we all have a why. So many organizations start with the clarity of why, but then it becomes about the systems and the structure and not the crusade. And it's not to anyone's fault. It's just our human nature. And so we need to be intentional with it. So I don't have a number, but I don't think it's in the majority yet that, that do it. And make no mistake of it, financial goals and finance, resources are important. There's just the will of the people that matters, and often matters most. And too many organizations make the goals about money only, forgetting that money is simply fuel, right? Money is fuel that keeps the car going. But none of us would buy a car so that for the purposes of putting fuel in it.
Ever.
Right? Like, we know that that's so silly. We buy a car so that we can go places. And the question is, where are you going? And so it's the responsibility of leaders rooted in their purpose and their why and their values to say, this is where we're going. And not just talking about your 3 to 5 year strategic plan. I'm talking about what's the world that you want to live in, and how can your organization be part of the solution to it? Because another great thing that infinite-minded organizations do is they know that they're not the only player. Like Boeing came out and said that they're going to, the first shuttle that lands on Mars is going to have a Boeing logo on it. To which Elon Musk said, "Great, do it. You'll advance it. Like, power to you. Can't wait to see you do it, because then we can learn from you." Like, that's an infinite mindset.
For sure. Yeah. I have had the opportunity to not only like work for, but create and then coach a lot of companies that have a really clear why. And so a lot of my time is spent often having a company identify what it is, the big vision that they're going after. And so I guess my question for you is how do companies align their decision making to why? And can you help me share why this is so important?
Yeah, I mean, the golden circle in starting with why is about authenticity, right? And we all say we want to work for the authentic leader, we want to work for the authentic organization, we want to buy from the authentic brand. Great. Does anyone know what authenticity means? Like, we just throw out the word. Well, what does it mean? It means you say and do the things you actually believe. And so when it's about change in an organization, it's about mindsets, actions, and systems. And if you don't have systems, if you don't have the actual things to make this stuff happen, it's going to be a lot of great words and not action. And that's just putting helium in a room, right? We need this stuff to have clarity of why, discipline of how, and consistency of what. And so our why is our purpose, our hows are our values in action, there are leadership behaviors, and they're filters, and they are filters. And so the opportunity is constantly to look at what you're doing and to play a game of continue, stop, start. What are the things that we're doing in our own leadership, in our teams, in our organization that are wonderful representations of who we are and what we believe? What do we know is in violation and that we need to make a adult responsible stop to it? And what are we inspired to start that we've been sitting on for 2 or 3 years, or just came to mind because it's a wonderful representation? I'll tell a funny little story. We worked for a number of years with an organization. Their why is to improve the course of history. No small why, and they did it with what they did. They actually made unmanned drones that provided Wi-Fi and eyes in the sky for military and disaster relief. So they're sending their drones into forest fires instead of people, right? So to improve the course of history, they're doing it, right?
Huge.
Yeah. One of their employees was up for promotion. They got the promotion, and to take the promotion, they would need to shift from a salaried role to an hourly role, which is odd, but actually if you did the dollars and cents, it'd be more, more income for them. The company is headquartered in an area where the quality of life is high and the cost of living is very high. And so in order for this person to say yes to this shift from salary to hourly, they needed to skip 2 weeks of a paycheck, which they couldn't afford to do. And it made it up as high as the CHRO. And it was decided that person could not take the promotion. The CEO got wind of it and said, "What's going on here, guys? Like, we have an opportunity to break a rule so that we can live our why of improving the course of history," and all things sorted out. The person got the promotion and the CHRO is no longer in the role because they didn't have the creativity to say, you know what, we need to make an exception here because this is a one-time case, but it's going to happen again. and we got to make it right.
Yeah.
So
That's a great story, and tying back to like how we make decisions, right, to ensure and move it forward. Um, you know how sometimes a company can have a really great why and have this disconnect with people who don't quite know how to make be in alignment with it. So I also see sometimes companies that maybe had a really great why, but feel eventually like move away from it or get disconnected from it. So what are some of the things, or how can companies reevaluate and reconnect with the
mhm.
original goal? Because business is busy and it's sometimes hard, and we need to make that, to realign.
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of practices you can do. One thing is we're really big believers of stories because stories are human, right? And a purpose, whether it's plastered on the wall or in an employee handbook, you need to give it life. It needs to be lived. So I'll give you one funny story. I hope it answers the question. If it
Okay.
doesn't, ask more.
Okay.
So uh, we've done some work with Hyatt hotels, and they have a why. It's to care for people so that they can be at their best. And it's been rolled out globally, and it's fantastic. We had a
Do a good job.
yeah, we had a close relationship with their CMO, who left the organization but was still doing some consulting with them. And he heard the CEO speak at a nursing convention, which actually makes sense because Hyatt hotels, to care for people so that they can be at their best, actually makes sense in a nursing environment. And the CEO came off the stage, got a standing ovation, was the highest rated speaker in the entire conference. And the CMO said to the CEO, he said, "I'm disgusted." CEO's like, his ego is all big. He's like, "What do you mean you're disgusted?" And he said, "I've heard those same stories for 2 years. You need to come up with new stories." And I think that the lesson of it is the strength of your why and the strength of your culture is not in how many great stories you have of the past, but how many new stories you're creating in the present. And we have these legends and fables, and they say something, but we need to, on our team, we have a weekly meeting that we call the huddle, which is really based around building relationship with one another. And one of the questions we ask is, who has a story of why we do what we do? And it's a mix of internal stories as well as customer and client facing stories. So I think stories are really what give words meaning in life.
I agree. I'm curious, just as a practice, because we do a huddle as well. How do you take that circle of sharing and then bring it external so that others know about it as well? Like, what's your practice for the huddle? How do you take it forward?
In terms of how do we share it externally, or
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really
uh,
like the team as well. So my focus was, how you get your team like reconnected with it and make it all
yeah.
connection that they don't lose.
Hmm.
Do you have any tips on how to share that story going outside the doors?
um I'm not sure if it's a bit of a cheat because the founder of our company is a best-selling author, so he can shoot a video, write a book, and highlight those. um uh yeah, ask me again. Or are you essentially saying, how do you take what makes you so unique internally and then be able to share it in an authentic way externally?
Yes. But well said. That
Yeah, okay. um so it's so interesting because it's like, if you say, "Hi, my name is Allison, I'm a wonderful leader," am I going to believe you, or am I going to believe you more if one of your other people or one of your customers or clients says it? And so I'm a big believer in word of mouth and reputation, and I'm a big believer of just share what you stand for. And instead of sort of, yeah, I mean, I think there's a way in which you can say, this is why we show up, and just highlight those stories, not from a place, highlight it from a place of service rather than from a place of, look at how great we are. It's, this is what we care about, and this is what makes us click. Yeah. Does that help?
that absolutely does, and I think that reinforces that you should always be allowing other people to kind of share how great you are. So provide the service, and they will tout how the experience has been. So agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many organizations we work with who are so fantastic and they don't market it, and yet their reputation in their communities or if they're a large organization, is just fantastic. So it's that balance. But I think, we're really big believers that when we help an organization articulate and discover its why and hows, before you market it internally or externally, audit, look at where are the gaps, who are the people that if you marketed this outside, they would respond with cynicism. And then look, okay, great, what's our part? How can we close the gap? Or are they a wrong fit? That's possible too. But how can we continue start ourselves, that by the time we market this, the vast majority of our people are proud of it.
Yeah, I love that. Stephen, I just want to make sure that my listeners understand how to connect with you and what is the best way to connect with Simon as a follower online. Where would you suggest that listeners go?
Yeah, all roads lead to simonsinek.com, SINEK. And we're on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all the places. But yeah, we have tons of free tools and some paid tools as well, all with the intent to inspire on our website, which is the best place to find us.
Okay, fantastic. So simonsinek.com. And then, I have a whole stack of books. I'm going to put this one up for people to look at, but what is in series? What would be the sequence of books, like the logical way to read them?
I don't, it's like a great TV show that you can start wherever. So Simon's written 3 thinky books and then 2 others. So the first one came out 10 years ago called Start With Why, and it's a manifesto for purpose. It's for leaders and organizations who wish to be inspired and wish to inspire others. If that speaks to you, read that one first. His next book, Leaders Eat Last, is all around how do we create conditions inside of the organization where we feel safe and we feel like we are surrounded by people who have our back. And there's a lot of ties and comes from work with military, but yeah, Leaders Eat Last is a great book if you really want to understand the awesome responsibility that it is to lead other human beings. Yeah, how serious of a job that is. Then he wrote Together is Better, which is a nice little coffee table book, really just a give back to fans. It's illustrated. It's written
it's very pretty.
Yeah, it's written in the style of a children's book, but with a message for adults around this kid who's bullied in a schoolyard and goes on a journey with his friends to realize that together is better. Then we wrote Find Your Why. We wrote Start With Why. When Simon first wrote Start With Why, he tried to do like a Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2, meaning he tried to put Start With Why and Find Your Why in one book together, and it didn't work. So finally, 8 years later, we said, okay, we'll write Find Your Why. And it's a guidebook for those who wish to find their why as individuals or for your team or organization. So it's an interactive guidebook, textbooky thing, which I'm sure you can attest to.
Yes.
I don't recommend that you listen to it on audiobook, but if you do,
I would recommend you don't do that either.
Yeah. And then the Infinite Game, I'm biased because Simon has often asked me what's my favorite work of his, and I always respond to him whatever's newest. And the Infinite Game is certainly true with that. It's the most grounded and realistic book he's written. Not that the others weren't, but this is just really grounded in, the realities of business and the realities of our climate. But yeah, it's a really powerful book. So if you haven't started, I would say The Infinite Game because that's my personal favorite. But feel free to go with wherever your energy takes you.
Well, as I disclosed at the beginning of this podcast, I've not yet read it. And so to my readers, it's next on my list. And I encourage you also to pick it up and start a conversation online with us on this. Stephen, I just can't thank you enough for your time this afternoon. I am a huge fan of the work that your organization does and just can't wait to see what's coming next.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this stuff and share it with your audience.
My pleasure. Thank you.